For the past century, the name Chanel has been synonymous with luxury, fashion, and beauty. The woman behind the name is an icon, shrouded in mystery, and often lauded as not only a pioneering figure in the fashion industry, but also as one of the most successful women of the early 20th century. The life of Coco Chanel is one full of sordid love affairs, harrowing tragedy, and intense rivalry. By the end of her 87-year life, Chanel would leave the following marks on the fashion industry: the double C logo, the Chanel suit, the little black dress, the Chanel bag, and Chanel number 5. Today, we're going to pop the hood on this romantic story of French success and add some Coco to the filthy cogs of our PR torture test machine. Will Gabrielle Coco Chanel come out on crutches? We'll be waiting on the other side to find out.
As a refresher, crutches is our PR torture test acronym. C stands for consumer harm, R stands for rich parents, U stands for union suppression and employee abuse, T stands for tax evasion, often disguised as donations, C stands for child labor allegations, H stands for harassment allegations, E stands for egregious behavior after hours, and S stands for slap suits and journalist suppression.
I'm Money Mike.
And I'm Rad Bill.
And we almost got it that time. We're going to be on in here in a minute. This is...
Yeah, so fashion shows give off the strongest fucking Hunger Game vibes I can find in real life, fucking anywhere. They actually sell the stuff that gets modeled on the catwalk, which is news to me. I thought those outfits were like concept cars, where they're made more to like illustrate the direction that the company is taking, but no, people fucking buy that shit. It's a shopping experience.
Dude, that's fucking crazy. The whole catwalk environment just gives off this vibe like they're fucking shopping for people.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, man. It just gives off just bad juju. But honestly, man, I haven't seen a ton of fashion shows. Most of them were on YouTube when I was about 15, and I realized that they had fashion show clips that showed boob. And I don't know for you, man, but YouTube boob back in the day was a precious thing.
If you had to guess the number of hours you spent looking for YouTube boob, where would you put that figure?
Double digits.
Yeah,
double digits for sure.
I would guess I probably had 50 hours in it, and then I found this obscure like college soccer video where they did like a breast exam. It was hype. 15-year-old Rad Bill was thrilled.
Oh, dude, it was special. It was fucking special. But anyway.
So today we're talking about Coco Chanel, probably one of the most famous French people to ever live.
Yeah, dude, croissants was the only thing that came to mind. I was just like, croissant. But yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
This story is fucking cool, man. It starts out awesome and it gets dark.
Yeah.
At first, you're going to cheer for Chanel, you're going to cry for Chanel, and then you're going to really fucking hate Chanel.
Yeah, we're alluding to a lot here. A lot of our one listener probably has a vague knowledge of what we're going to get into, but I'm not certain that many know just how fucked this shit's about to get.
Dude, it's bananas.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in again. As this story unfolds, let's keep the following questions in mind. Were the motivations behind Chanel's choices a result of her ruthless opportunism or her closely held beliefs? Is this a rebuke of Coco Chanel, the upper class, or the Catholic Church? And third, was Coco Chanel a product of her time? And if she was, can the brand today separate from her behavior?
Yeah, and a couple housekeeping items before we really dive into the story. One, Chanel is a notoriously unreliable narrator. She has fudged facts about her life as small as her birth date, not even her birth year. Just like she said, I was born on Thursday instead of Friday. So that kind of leads us to the fact that there are two stories at play here.
Yeah.
One, the story that Chanel tells and her company tells, and two is what actually happened. And we're going to do most of our work trying to separate those fibers and figure out where the truth lies. With that being said, let's just go ahead and dive in. So Coco Chanel is born Gabrielle Bonheur Chesnay.
That sounded right. That sounded fucking correct just now.
Also, another housekeeping item, I'm going to fuck up every single one of these names. So if you're French and you listen to this and you're mad, you can just send us a voice clip of how it's supposed to be pronounced, and I will correct in the next episode.
Yeah, it's super hard. And also, rest assured, if Money Mike doesn't quite nail something here, Rad Bill, can come in the back and also fuck it up. So
it is going to be the blind leading the fucking blind here.
Yes.
But Chanel is born in 1883 to a laundry woman named Eugene Jean Deval Chanel, also known as Jean, and a street merchant named Albert Chanel. And she was born out of wedlock into a poorhouse hospital. And let me tell you, these people were fucking poor.
Yeah, every fucking big shot today likes to pretend they were born into pretty trying circumstances. Oh, my dad was a lowly accountant, or, oh, I slept on a couch when I started my business. But the 1800s were fucking different, dude. I'm pretty sure every fucking billionaire alive today, attended school.
Yeah, no billionaire today is like, yeah, I started Uber, but reading is still kind of tough because I never fucking learned.
Yeah, I don't know punctuation good, but I've got all the words down. Pretty good at that part. So, also Chaznel, probably still pronounced Chanel, is the result of a typo on her registration forms. Did her parents just not have ID at the time of the birth? Or could you just pick a last name for your fucking child back then?
Or were her parents literate? I mean, this is the turn of the century in the poorest caste in France. There's a real chance these people just couldn't fucking read.
Yeah, dude.
This was poverty. Yeah. Gabrielle was the second of 6 children. One died, and they all lived in this single room. No one went to fucking school. Poor kids just didn't do that, and they all just kind of hung out in that one fucking room.
All right, so, real quick now, what would you do as a dad with 5 fucking kids not in school in, one goddamn room?
Dude, I would have to accept that I was probably going to have to hear one of my kids masturbating in the middle of the night at some point.
Oh, God.
And how do you fuck? You just tell all 5 of your kids to peace out?
You just lock the door and leave them out in the fucking cold.
And there were 6 of them. So you know that had to happen at some point in order for them to make more kids.
Yeah, this fucking happened. This was a real-ass scenario. This was an occurrence. Yep.
So bottom line, she's born into abject poverty. Mm-hmm. So in 1894, Gabrielle's mom dies, and dad is just not dealing with 5 fucking kids. They're all under the age of 13. So the 2 boys are sent to work on a farm like a dog who bit somebody. Yep. And the 3 girls are sent to the Catholic Aubazine Convent. Actually, I think that's convent. Orphanage. And the religious order of this orphanage was founded to care for poor, rejected, and just abandoned young girls.
Yeah, probably to convert them into nuns as well. Let's be real. The nuns have to fucking come from somewhere.
Yeah, and no one doing well in life is like, I think I'm going to become a fucking nun.
You know what I could do without probably is ever having sex ever. Or, being happy or eating food I like to eat or doing anything other than begging for forgiveness. Yeah, let's try out this whole fucking nun thing.
Exactly.
Great dicks.
Exactly.
So according to our sources, Coco is about to spend 7 years fucking sewing. So while she does so, why don't we do a little world building?
Yeah, so 1894 is a funny year for France, especially Catholicism in France. So before we get into that, a little ditty about Catholicism in the 1800s. The Catholic Church at this time required Latin sermons. They didn't like the idea of assisting or collaborating with other Christian sects. And here's the big scoop. They still blamed Jewish people for the death of Jesus Christ and were being just a fucking bummer about it. Yeah, for real. And by the way, as a fun side note, Catholicism held this grudge until the Second Vatican Council, which concluded in 1965. Which I just don't fucking get. Without Jesus dying, they literally don't have a fucking religion. So I don't get why they're pissed off about it.
They don't have a goddamn thing. It's that, the elitism of fucking reading your sermons in Latin. What the shit? And also being like, no, fuck all Catholics who believe basically the exact same thing as us. It's fucking insane.
Dude, the Catholic Church, just a bummer. But anyway.
Yeah, to add a little stink to the situation, in 1894, the very year Coco was sent to this convent, the Dreyfus affair kicks off.
Yes, and this shit was huge for France, and undoubtedly played a huge role in Chanel's very anti-Semitic upbringing.
Yeah. Here at Profiteers vs. the People, we're pretty good at getting off track. We encourage you to look into the Dreyfus affair in your own time, but for this episode, we're going to lightning round the big events and the impact they had on France.
Yes. So Alfred Dreyfus was a French officer, and he was charged with selling military secrets to Germany, but he didn't have a clear motive. He was rich, he loved France, but there was this one smoking gun. He was Jewish.
Yep, this is the age of the hunch and the smoking gun. People are looking at a fucking letter someone found and going, yeah, Jewish handwriting, seen it a million times.
He refused to confess, and the conservative press blew this shit up. You know, surprise, surprise, France was betrayed by a Jew.
Yeah, the anti-Semites thought this meant war with Germany. Oh, the irony.
So then Dreyfus is convicted of treason and sent to Devil's Island for life.
Anti-Semites celebrate by setting France ablaze.
But wait, there's new evidence, and was it Dreyfus or this other guy named Charles Esterhazy?
Anti-Semites were furious, and as an act of rebellion, they set the country on fire.
And this gets a ton of press attention, but then Hazy is acquitted.
Anti-Semites celebrate by setting the country ablaze. Hooray! Our suspicions were confirmed.
But then Hazy flees the country, and a journalist exposes the fraud. Back to court the French military go.
Anti-Semites are pissed and gear up to burn the fucking country to the ground.
And then the journalist is sued for libel, is accused of trying to undermine the will of the French people. How dare he?
The anti-Semites were relieved. Their version of justice is served and celebrate by burning the country to the ground. Oh, and they militarized this time. Anti-Semitic shock troops appeared on the streets to ensure that any pro-Dreyfus meeting would meet a bloody end. The police just fucking ignored it.
And then the journalist appealed this decision and was reconvicted twice.
Sacre bleu! A twist in the story.
Hazy just fucking confesses. In 1899, Dreyfus is brought back, retried, and found guilty again. He is sentenced to yet another 10 years for treason with extenuating circumstances.
Anticipating another celebration, the president of France pardons Dreyfus and grants amnesty to all conspirators. Et voila! This continues for decades. It never stops.
Basically, there is just a war between anti-Semitic people and kind of fucking France at this point.
It's going to reemerge and go away and reemerge and go away for the next, 40 fucking years.
Exactly. So the point here is that for the 7 years that Chanel was in this convent, anti-Semites who were predominantly Catholic were mostly just fucking burning stuff. And we would expect that the nuns who were essentially parenting Chanel were probably cheering them on. Not a great environment for little Coco Chanel.
Yeah, here at this Aubazine convent, we're fucking down for burning stuff. Let's burn some shit down.
Wind the clock back a couple of 100 years. The Catholic Church was for burning people. Now I guess they've just upgraded to cities.
They're getting more moral.
Or more efficient.
Modernizing. Fantastic.
But anyway, we're back to Coco.
Yes.
So now she's 16 or 17. She's got another year in this goddamn nunnery. And then she is out, and she is not a fan of these fucking nuns.
Yeah, can't fucking blame her on that. This is like having a conservative dad who's grooming you for God.
Ugh. Ugh. That sentence just gave fucking cancer. So then, it's 1901. Chanel turns 18 and has to leave the convent and move into a boarding house for Catholic girls in Moulins.
Yes. As we mentioned, while we were navigating the Dreyfus affair montage, Gabrielle was sitting in a chair, sewing and being beaten by the very anti-Semitic harem of the Lord.
God. The anti-Semitic harem of the Lord. Oh my God, that's great. Anyway, she gets out of this convent and very quickly realizes a couple things. Mm-hmm. One, she's a pretty fucking talented seamstress as a result of all those, Jesus-themed beatings.
Yes, yes.
And two, she figured out that she was beautiful. You have to remember here, she hadn't been subject to the male gaze for her entire childhood at the nunnery. The priests were too busy trying to fuck the choir boys, so no one was really trying to look at her. So she pretty much hit the front stoop and realized that every man, and probably most of the women, were fixated on her. And she also realizes that she was fucking into it. Mm-hmm. So what does she do? She decides to put that pretty face on a stage and start singing in a local cabaret. And this is actually where she claims that her namesake comes from, because she sang a song called Where's Coco? However, after she moves to Vichy to pursue her dreams, she figured out that there was one problem with her aspirations of being a singer. She wasn't very good at singing.
Yeah.
She was kind of like Jennifer Lopez in the days before autotune.
Do you remember, just real fast diversion here, do you remember when Jennifer Lopez was the height of ass technology?
Yes, I do remember that.
She was top tier. That was it.
Which was the chick, it was one of the pretty female singers who sang the national anthem. It was
Fergie.
Fucking Fergie. And everybody was like, oh no!
What is this shit? How did she get here?
And the answer is, she's pretty cute. And that's kind of what Coco realizes, but without all the auto-tune production.
Yes.
But she also realizes something else. That while she's mingling with her audience between sets, she figured out that wealthy men could not get enough of her. And she could use that to get what she needed out of them. You have to understand, at this point in history, a woman from the bottom had pretty much one way out, being the mistress of a rich boy.
God, Jesus, rich boys were in such high demand.
They fucking were. And she figures this out quickly and employs it to her advantage. So she gets back to Moyen and she meets a rich boy named Etienne Bossan, who was a textile heir. And this dude had fuck you money. And for 3 years, Chanel was his mistress. She lived in his chateau and was showered in decadent gifts and basically just got to party all the time and learn how to mingle with the elites.
Yeah. As we mentioned, Bolsan is egregiously wealthy. So she told him she wanted to make clothes. And he was like, whatever, every girl needs a hobby. And funded a hat making venture she wanted to take on. Just whatever, fucking do your thing.
Exactly. And this is really admirable because by the standards of the day, she made it. She met a rich guy. She was living in a big house that she could have never dreamed of affording from where she came from. And instead of saying, I did it, she said, I want to use this as a platform for more.
Yeah.
So at this point, she's fucking in with the in crowd. And she starts going to all these fancy events that were reserved for the French elites. And Balsam is giving her all these high-end fashion dresses so she can fit in with these snobby trust fund bitches. And dude, she fucking hates them.
The clothes, that is. Well, probably the people also.
Well, she also hates the people, but yes, she hates these clothes.
Yes.
She feels like the corsets are pushing her nipples through her fucking lungs. These giant hats are making her neck feel like she just blew a horse on antidepressants. And she realizes that these fashions are actively preventing her from doing shit. Yeah. So her and Balsan love riding horses, but women at this time have to ride side saddle to prevent a level of vag chafe that could probably prevent pregnancy.
Yeah, imagine going bare vag to horse spine. Like, holy shit.
Ooh. At that point, that's fucking female genital mutilation.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so what does she do? She starts wearing fucking pants. She was like, Sacre bleu, me pussy should be cradled like a baby. I can't do a French accent.
That was good.
But this rejection of traditional women's fashion at the time and this idea that women should be comfortable would shape the way that Chanel thought and would shape fashion for the next fucking century.
Yeah, and also, getting off the horse, she just started wearing men's suits all the fucking time. Like the events with those fancy ladies who are all corseted up and shit. She comes in a goddamn suit and one of the little hats that she made herself. Some punk rock shit, dude.
It's fucking rock and roll.
Yeah.
She infiltrates these circles from, again, the bottom. And instead of just immediately assimilating, she's like, hey, so the way that you guys do this, it's fucking dumb and I'm not about it. So I'm gonna shove in a pair of fucking pants. You can get fucked.
These are comfy. It only took me trying on these fuckers one time. I'm never wearing anything other than men's clothing again.
Yes. So this is fucking pivotal for Chanel. Yeah. She hates the way that women's fashion is currently going and she is going to change it.
Yeah.
So a few years later, Balsan introduces her to one of his friends, Captain Arthur Edward Capel. And Chanel is quoted as reminiscing about this time, saying,
"Two gentlemen were at the bidding for my hot little body."
I feel like it was probably like one of those situations where you casually make an introduction to one of your friends and just notice that your girl just keeps laughing at all your homeboy shitty jokes, and you're just like, oh,
like, God damn it, man. And you're like trying to figure out like friendly ways to like split them up. Like, hey, babe, why don't you come over here and, play a game of, what do I got? Mario Kart? You want to play Mario Kart?
Just play a game of stop laughing at my friend's jokes. This dude's never been fucking funny until tonight.
He's not funny. He just has great hair.
Yeah, exactly. And Capel probably wasn't very funny, but he didn't have great hair, but he had great fucking money.
Yes.
And Chanel decides, bitch, it is time to upgrade. And she drops balsam like a bad fucking habit for Capel, and they become both lovers and business partners. And this is where things start to really pop off for Chanel. 2 years later, she opens a shop for her hats in an area neighboring an already successful clothing business. And the entire thing is financed by Capel. The business ramps up slowly for a few years, and then one of Chanel's hats is worn in a theater play by Gabrielle Dorsat. That's getting old. I gotta stop.
No, you're good. It's a lot of work, right? Like, holy shit. I can't imagine how, like, raspy and tired a French person's voice has to be at the end of the day.
That and all the fucking cigarettes, man. But anyway, but bottom line, her fucking career takes off.
Yeah.
And once she's proven that she's a force to be reckoned with in the hat game, she decides to take it to the next level and open a boutique. Her differentiating factor was simple: minimalist, comfortable designs. Other designers were making clothes out of scratchy lace and silk simply because it looked rich.
Yeah, this outfit will make you look like a fancy lamp, madame.
Dude, I just saw the correlation between like Victorian dresses and lamps, and I don't know how I haven't seen that before.
Yeah, the men at that time, once those went out, were like, well, fucking missed the fucking lampshade thing. Let's fucking get that back in here. Jesus,
seriously.
Maybe some thick, fluffy curtains.
Yeah, right. Why were women dressing like fucking housing decorations? Is that because they were treated like housing decorations? I don't know.
Probably part of it, yeah. Photoshop wasn't a thing. Men just had to dress their women like furniture in the living room.
Exactly, to just accentuate how they actually felt about them.
Yes.
But anyway, so all these other brands are making their clothes out of this shit that just looks rich. And Chanel's like, fuck that. I want my clothing to be comfortable. So she designed all of her clothes out of jersey and tricot. Maybe that's pronounced tricot. But basically, it's a fabric made for men's underwear. So about as comfy you can get at the time. And the thing is jersey was considered a poor girl's fabric. But Coco, because of where she came from, took a risk. She used it anyway because it was more comfortable and it was different. And dude, it was a huge fucking hit.
So what do you think? I mean, for the genesis of that idea, what do you think the odds are that she tried on a pair of men's underwear and was just like, holy God, these are a game changer? Like,
dude, as a person who has spent time with people of the opposite sex, that you have totally tried on a pair of women's underwear. So I'm sure she did the same thing with Capel or one of her other lovers' underwear and was like, this slaps.
Yeah, dude, my wife gets me underwear here and there, and I'm always super excited about it. And the thing in the back of my mind's like, I hope she never tries these on because we'll be pulling for the same drawer for the rest of this marriage.
Exactly.
Like the one time I've jokingly like tried to put hers on, the fucking lacy things around the legs fucking hurt, dude.
Dude, so I had to put on Tyler's underwear as a joke one time.
I think I was there for that.
You were there, and I'm debating on how like deep I want to get into the story, but my ball hung out one side.
Yeah. Oh yeah, your dick flopped out of the side. It was. Yeah. You're blonde out, man. It's a good looking penis you got there.
Oh, dude, thanks, man. Yeah. Also, here at Profiteers versus the People, we're sex positive. We see each other's dicks. It's part of friendship. But
it was part of how we started the podcast. We saw each other's naked penises, and we're like, we should do a podcast together.
It was part of the intro. So yeah, sorry you had to hear that, Dad, if you're listening. But anyway, so everything for Chanel at this point is going great. Yes. But then, Sacre Bleu, in 1914, a little historical event that kind of disrupted some things broke out, and that was World War I.
Yes. And her business fucking halts here. Women are working in factories and don't have time for the frills, flowers, and champagne flutes. They have to roll up their sleeves, stop buying clothes from Chanel, and get to fucking work.
And this is Chanel's first real hiccup. It's a hiccup for everybody. So to survive, Chanel pivots. She launches a daily wear collection using this jersey material that she'd been using since day one, hoping that she could sell clothing that women would be comfortable working in. And dude, it's a massive fucking hit again.
Yeah.
There's a call for something. She fucking nails it again.
Yeah. She was quoted around this time saying, I'm going to try the French accent this time. The world was dying. Oh, fuck it. The world was dying when another was being born. An opportunity came forward and I took her.
I love the way that started. It was so delicate, and then it just got angry.
Sorry, it just sounded, it is exhausting. My voice hurts now.
So basically, Chanel leans into this whole war thing. She opens a shop in Ritz, nice and close to a shitload of very wealthy Spaniards and other rich people fleeing the war, and she's able to reimburse Capel within 1 year, which is cool because now she's becoming not just wealthy because of Capel, but just fucking wealthy.
She's independently wealthy at this point. Yeah, and it's an important emphasis here. She reimbursed him of his entire investment.
So she's probably one of the only independently wealthy women in Europe at this point. Because again, at that point, women weren't independently wealthy. They were married to rich guys.
Also, so right around this time, she meets a friend, and Josh, you're going to be hearing about this lady a bunch later, so take note. Her name is Messiah Serre. Or
Messiah Serre.
Messi Serre. Also, important to note, hedonism is gripping France like a religious fervor at this time. Chanel is bringing in the big bucks and partying like a fucking rock star right now.
Yeah, dude. The wealthy in France at this time were partying their nutsacks off.
And let's add some context to that. Coca-Cola at this point was loaded with cocaine.
Oh, God.
Like, holy shit. The stuff that they were actually doing to really go nuts had to be pandemonium.
Yeah, like you could go to equivalent of CVS and buy morphine, which, spoiler alert, they fucking did a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in 1918, the war ends, and tragedy strikes Chanel, not once, but twice. So, like we said earlier, at this time, mistresses in Europe are commonplace. Rich men would often be taken with women from lower classes with whom they would forge long-term relationships. However, due to the social politics, these men were still expected to marry someone from means. So, around this time in 1918, Capel finally capitulates. And he tells Chanel that he must marry some crusty English duchess or whatever, but he's totally still down to bang.
Yep.
And this hurts Chanel. She's been riding this high for the past decade, feeling like she was finally one of them. But she's yet again reminded that because of who her parents were, she's just not worthy of the title of wife. And she and Capel were very much in love. She would go on to say that he was the only man that she ever loved in a laundry list of lovers. Mm-hmm. And then, while that wound is still fresh, Capel is on his way to see Chanel and gets in a car accident, and he dies. This would be the great tragedy of Chanel's life.
Yeah. And
she is left angry, bitter, and alone. She blames high society for keeping them apart, and she wanted revenge on these elites who she felt dictated the way that her life was unraveling, and ultimately blamed them for Capel, A, not marrying her, but B, fucking dying.
Isn't it crazy that there wasn't a technicality for someone like Chanel at this point? Where, like, it's like, okay, well, you know, you're probably one of the richest women right now. You've got a shitload of money. But your parents and their parents and their parents aren't moneyed. So,
yeah,
sorry.
And that is the differentiation between aristocracy and wealth.
Yep.
There is a difference. And at this time, even more than today, you couldn't buy that lineage, and it was so important.
Yeah. You know, there's a thing with wealthy people that I've met in my lifetime up to this point where I'll meet them and I'll go, we're not too different.
Yep.
There is a massive difference the next level up.
Yep.
Where it's dynastic wealth, where it's been passed down. That is a completely different breed. That is a sociological change where it's like, I earned my money. No, the money has always been there. Our job is maintaining the dynasty.
Yes.
It's a completely different fucking world.
At that level, money isn't a mold of one's personality. It just isn't something that's thought about.
Yeah, it's not real. It's fucking mythical at that point. It's just not a concern.
And the notoriety that goes along with dynastic wealth, a person doesn't ever need to differentiate themselves because they were born differentiated.
Yeah.
And that's what Capel is. He is born differentiated, and Chanel is not. However, after this soul-crushing tragedy, she bottles her rage and resentment and throws herself at her work. And in 1919, Chanel's Maison de Couture is established at 31 Rue Cambon, Paris.
That sounded right. I think you nailed that one.
I think so.
Yeah, this decade is the meat of her career. The 20s fucking roar for Coco Chanel. In 1920, she's 38. She has her couture house up and running, and she decides to enter an unusual market for fashionistas.
She creates a perfume, and she calls it Chanel No. 5.
This is actually the first mixed scent marketed to women. At this time, you could smell like single things. It's like, oh, there's a little bit of raspberry on this, and you can rub it on your neck, and you'll kind of smell like raspberry or vanilla. And she has the breakthrough of going, well, what if I put both on? Which seems
That's it.
so easy.
And it took off. She was killing it locally.
Yeah.
However, because, as you noted, this was a new terrain for her, she didn't know how to scale it, but she knew that there was money to be made. So she reaches out to Theodore Bader, who owns a shit ton of department stores, and this man wants to carry him some Chanel No. 5. So then Bader introduces her to Pierre Wertheimer. Josh, if you're still listening, make sure you remember the name Pierre Wertheimer. It's going to come back.
Yeah.
Once that introduction is made, the idea is that Wertheimer is going to finance the deal. Bader just gave her a phone number, and now we're going to go get rich. But here's the thing. Coco doesn't know her way around this business. And she also, and this is big, needs a man to run the accounts by law.
Yeah, which is fucking crazy.
Yes.
How recent of a thing this is. But yeah, women at this time in France just weren't allowed to own a fucking business.
Yes. And for the past 10 years, Capel had been Chanel's solution.
Yeah, he dies in 1919. And because the business hasn't changed a ton, there's not been that much attention drawn to this. But because this is a new venture, as far as we can tell, the issue here is that to scale this publicly, she needs a man attached.
Yes. And as a result, the partnership would allow Chanel to stay in business and scale this, new brilliant product. Wertheimer would take 70% of the profits because he has the money. Bader will take 20% because he gave someone a phone number. And we guess Chanel keeps the other 10.
Yeah.
And Chanel was very dissatisfied.
Yeah, she was fucking pissed about this shit. So, important note here. Kanye West's deal with Adidas entitled him to 5% of net sales. And the guy's worth $6 billion, or was at some point last year. Before all the anti-Semitic stuff. Yeah. We don't know a lot of the details around this deal, but at first glance, it really doesn't seem that far out of the norm. It is a case of an artist being screwed, but it isn't a case of an artist being outrageously screwed. Chanel is about to bitterly spend the rest of her fucking life complaining about how much of a raw deal she got here. We don't think it was that raw of a deal. Her lawyer didn't think it was that raw of a deal. Maybe she was just mad that he was Jewish.
Chanel is a vehement anti-Semite. So is she an artist who is overestimating her input? Yes, for sure. And we cannot ignore the fact that she didn't like the deal because she didn't like the race of the person behind the deal. So after this deal comes to fruition and Chanel number 5 is being distributed worldwide and she's getting rich as a result, she decides it's time to get back in the dating game. And she meets the Duke of Westminster.
The Duke of Westminster.
Yeah, I'm about to say, we're doing French accents, so we might as well do English accents. Yeah. The Duke of Westminster, who happens to be the richest man in England. Not only is she back in with the mucky mucks, she's in with the muckiest of the mucks. Her new man introduces her to some of the most influential people on the fucking continent. Most notably is Winston Churchill.
The Duke of Westminster, he was also a huge goddamn homophobe and anti-Semite.
Yeah, so she and the Duke basically just start kicking it. He buys her a house in the Fancy Pants Mayfair district.
The Fancy Pants Mayfair district.
In London, and gives her all this shit. And they spend 10 years basically just being anti-Semitic and homophobic together.
Just brutally, horribly anti-Semitic and homophobic. She was quoted at one point saying this about gay people. I have seen the young woman ruined by these other queers. Drugs, divorce, and scandal. They will use any means to destroy a competitor and to wreak vengeance on a woman. The queers want to be women, but they are lousy women. They are charming. I'm still confused by this last bit.
What was that last bit?
Yeah, it's like a little compliment at the end. Like, is this half of a fucking insult sandwich or compliment sandwich, whatever the fuck they call it?
Yeah, or is she also anti-feminist? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so bottom line, they just chill out and be douchebags together.
Yeah, she's kind of giving off turf vibes here, which, not great.
Oh, yeah. Which, you know, man, it's 1924, but she's still a piece of shit. So 1924 is a huge release year for Coco. The interlocking C's are unveiled. She unveils the two-tone shoe, the sportswear and swimsuits for women. She's just churning this shit out. But the biggest thing that comes out of this is the little black dress, which is the default fashion choice for women today.
Yeah. If you're a lady of modern times or transitioning to a lady of modern times, if you don't know what to wear, you're grabbing the little black dress. Easy peasy.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's it. So she's fucking killing it. And then in 1931, Chanel meets Sam Goldwyn, who you might recognize that last name of a certain famous movie studio. And he basically offers her a pretty yummy proposition. I, Sam Goldwyn, will give you the modern equivalent of $75 million, and you, Coco Chanel, just come with me to Hollywood like twice a year, make some costumes for movie stars. Messia Sayre will come hang out with us, and we can just go make some money together.
Yeah.
When Chanel was asked about, this proposition, she said,
"Well, why am I going? To see what the pictures have to offer me and what I have to offer the pictures." Actually, here's the funny thing. I read this today. I believe it was an account of the event from Sam Goldwyn. But he was like, she seems really freaked out by all the Jewish people. I don't know what's going on. She's in Hollywood like, oh, geez, another one. Oh, God, shit.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit. All right. Chanel's coming to the office. All of you have to leave.
Yeah, he said he had to play a game of fucking keep away with her and Jewish people in Hollywood. Yeah, holy fuck.
Oh my God, she is just prohibitively anti-Semitic.
It's incredible how there were plenty of big names back in the time who were like, it's genuinely humiliating to be around her because of how insanely anti-Semitic she is. But she gives this weird sort of exploratory answer to see what the pictures have to... To see what the pictures have to offer me and what I have to offer the pictures. Another fine answer would have just been like, millions of dollars, man. Yeah.
It was sick. Yeah, I was there for the money and actually only that.
The money was pretty cool. And also Sam Goldwyn, pretty big deal. Yeah.
But she goes to Hollywood and she designs the wardrobes for Gloria Swanson in Tonight or Never. Then for Ina Claire in The Greeks Have a Word for Them, and just many other movies. I've not seen either of those two. I don't know if they were big. I'm assuming they were.
These are in black and white, mind you. This shit didn't take. Her clothing looked regular as shit in these movies, and she was kind of booed out of Hollywood. I'm sure the anti-Semitism didn't help with this shit.
Yeah, that was probably a bit of a bummer, for sure.
So we're rolling into the 30s here. I think without World War II, this decade is the end of Coco's career. Although her staff grows to 4,000, she launches new jewelry and handbags, it's all good. She fucking struggles for relevance.
It's kind of becoming apparent that she is a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
The issue with earning your acclaim with a revolution is it's really fucking hard to do twice. And what we saw in World War I is it just so happened that women really wanted the type of clothing that Chanel just happened to be selling at the time, which again was minimalist, comfortable attire for women.
Yeah, you can't break out in Hollywood with like, check it out, I call it the t-shirt. Everyone in this movie is going to be wearing one. It's going to be sweet.
Yeah. And they're all beige, and this movie's in black and white. So what Hollywood wanted was glitz and glamour and loud and gaudy. You know, these were outfits for a stage.
Yeah, these are lampshade outfits. This is when you bust out the lampshades.
Yeah, and Chanel just did not fucking pivot. And like you said, if World War II didn't happen, this is probably where she would start to become irrelevant at the very least.
Yeah. Another big thing here, by the way, is there's a new huge voice in fashion that's nailing the avant-garde thing, which is Schiaparelli. I don't know enough about women's clothing to know if Schiaparelli is still around, but at this time, she was fucking huge, and she was a pretty huge bummer for Chanel.
Yeah, and Schiaparelli is just the coolest fucking name.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Schiaparelli? I could say that over and fucking over again.
It sounds like if it were a store-bought pizza, it would be the most delicious fucking store-bought pizza.
It does sound like a delicious frozen pizza. We ate too much frozen pizza this weekend.
We did eat too much frozen pizza this weekend.
I regret nothing.
I don't either.
Haven't pooped in 3 days. Anyway.
I can see it on me. It's crazy. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I'm not even sweating. I'm just exuding pizza grease. It's nasty.
Yeah,
but anyway. So after the failure of her clothing to really hit it off in Hollywood, and her light steadily being outshone by this new rising star, Schiaparelli, according to our sources, Chanel halves her prices. She essentially discount bins her entire line.
Yeah.
And spends the next few years just banging this reactionary dude, Paul Irbay, who's a designer and an illustrator.
Yeah, for the duration of their relationship, by the way, she's publishing this far-right ultra-nationalist newsletter of his, which ceases publication in 1935, right around the time she gets hooked on morphine.
Yes. So this is where mispronounce comes back into the picture. Again, she and Chanel have been friends, and they would become drug buddies. And it becomes very evident at this point that they stop being friends and start being lovers.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because she spent a couple years saying, these quiz,
they're so bad. I forgot
the quiz with their drugs. And then she does a lot of gay shit and gets hooked on drugs.
And she's like, this fucking rocks. I was wrong. Like, I think this is the only time we see any like backpedaling from Chanel on her bullshit is on this stuff where she's like, you know what women can figure out pretty quick? The G-spot. I didn't even know that was a thing. It's fucking 1930s France. I mean, there's a lot of sex happening here, but women having an orgasm? Like, oh my God.
That's basically a fucking urban legend at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, she is now fucking hooked on morphine, fucking mispronounce.
She's got one thing right there. Drugs are pretty fucking cool. Gay sex, I've heard it's fucking great. Like, why the fuck keep people from doing that shit? It sounds amazing. In 1936, in a seemingly massive pivot, like this little period here, she tries morphine and gay sex, and she's like, maybe I'm wrong about these left-wingers. You know? Like, maybe they're on to something.
Yeah, dude, are we all just like one shot of morphine and one gay love encounter away of all voting blue? I could see it.
Dude, let's fucking save America, man. Morphine and gay sex for everybody. I'm in.
That's my fucking platform.
Yeah. So Chanel, in a seemingly massive pivot, finances Futur, a far-left magazine for Pierre Lestringue. If she'd adopted the beliefs of this publication, she would have probably been thrilled by what came next.
In 1936, it was probably the biggest victory for workers' rights in the past 200 years in France. Mm-hmm. The French people form a coalition and pass legislation promising sizable universal wage increase, a 40-hour work week, 2 weeks paid vacation a year. It was killer.
Mm-hmm.
But contrary to her, previous more left-leaning views, Chanel does not want to opt into this arrangement, known as the Maintenant agreement, because she was fucking pissed. So she just fired a bunch of women, and she would later begrudgingly agree to a workers' cooperative managed by her to produce her next collection. But it becomes pretty clear that she is not pro-workers at this point.
Yeah. With this pivot, we can draw one of two conclusions. One, men were Coco's ideological muses. She's taken the role of the business magnate at this point, and as such has a harem of nervous and insecure little rich boys.
I love that.
Yeah. And she drastically changed her views based on what the men in her life believed. Two, she was either not overly involved or maybe even trying to sabotage the movement with this magazine. We don't have evidence for either, but it becomes pretty clear by Chanel's actions that she definitely didn't support what the magazine was actually advocating for her workers at least.
For sure. When it comes to evaluating historical figures, my rule is we judge you by your actions, not your words.
Mm-hmm.
And her actions were very anti-workers' rights,
yes,
especially when she had a dog in the fight.
Yep.
But after these challenges, at the end of the decade, she gets rid of the Duke. She's living at the Ritz in Paris. And like we said earlier, this seems like where Chanel is fading into obsolescence.
Mm-hmm.
But she makes two Hail Marys, no pun intended for Catholicism, to try to kind of get back into the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
One is a play called Oedipus Rex, which is probably just French for Oedipus Rex.
That checks out, yeah.
Where she has designed the wardrobe, and a Russian ballet called Bacchanali, where Salvador Dali, another noted fascist,
allegedly,
provided the designs for Chanel's outfits. So the play, it straight up fucking fails.
Yeah. Because
the critics shat on her designs.
Yeah. Some literally described it as like the actors looked wounded in the fucking clothing she designed. Like they were in some sort of terrible fucking accident or whatever. Like her clothes like pulled down the whole fucking play.
Dude, I feel like critics were just really mean kids in middle school. Because, dude, that is a fucking burn.
That is a sick ass burn, dude. I'm sure that's what it is. Like, they're in the interview like, well, I've been bullying people for my entire life. So.
So I would like to do it in print and get your name behind me. And they're like, oh, yeah, that works.
That sounds great. Yeah, I've seen your work. I loved what you did with that one kid in his underwear. It's incredible.
Yeah, his butthole will never be the same after that.
He's going to have the mark from that elastic on his forehead for the rest of his life. You have ruined his entire existence.
So the play fails. And then in 1939, a very important historical event happens. That was World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And the ballet leaves London and war is upon Europe again.
Yep. Chanel closes down her operation at the start of the war, which she didn't need to fucking do, and it left 4,000 workers unemployed. It's believed by many that this was in retaliation for the Matignon Agreement. Not nice, Coco. You're really earning the shit out of that U here.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like, she spiteful.
Yep.
Spiteful. So now World War II is upon Europe, and particularly France.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Coco's story and the truth really start to diverge.
Yeah. And this is where this shit gets dark, by the way. If
Yes.
you're like us at this point in the story, you're already really not liking Coco much at all. This anti-Semitism thing is not a good look for anybody, but
For sure.
This is where we really descend into the abyss.
Yes. So Coco's biography says that she flees to her home in Lake Geneva, which is in Switzerland, to basically wait out the war because the Germans have occupied France.
Mm-hmm.
However, she remained in Paris. And this is huge because, again, if you remember how the French fared in the early days of World War II, you know they got les fucked.
Yeah, they got les bons in the asshole.
and German occupation was almost immediate.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who did not want to endure the horrors of a wartime occupation would have pieced out fucking immediately.
Yeah.
However, Coco didn't just fail to peace out. She didn't even leave the Ritz, which was suddenly flooded with goddamn Nazis.
Yes, she's in an ocean of fucking Nazis now, and she's not moving. This looks like a red flag here. See what I did there? Oh, God. Oh, Red Bill, you fucking nailed that.
Not a white flag, which is what the French waved.
Oh.
Anyway, just to drive this home, the Ritz becomes the German HQ during World War II.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is big. She is, at this point, swimming among the enemy. And near right away, she begins sleeping with them. She gets into a relationship with a Mr. Baron Hans Gunther von Dinklage, a member of the Dinklage noble family, and a goddamn Nazi. Unsurprising.
Yes. And coincidentally, her boutique remains undamaged during the war.
God, that is just staggering coincidence, isn't it? Holy shit.
So, like Rad Bill said, this is where shit gets dark. So, you remember that cat, Pierre Wertheimer, and the beef that Chanel and Wertheimer had about the ownership of her business? Well, as soon as the Nazis take over France, Chanel starts leveraging all of those anti-Semitic laws that pervaded France during the occupation to try to take the whole fucking business from Wertheimer just because he was Jewish.
Yeah.
Chanel essentially just went crying to the Nazis.
Oh, these mean Jewish aristocrats have been stealing from me. Please, Mr. Big Strong Nazi Man, won't you help me get Chanel number 5 back from these bad men? You know what the saddest part of this is, by the way? Is that Wertheimer was extremely kind to her. It's speculated by a lot that he was just enamored by her beauty and was just so forgiving of her bullshit and so kind to her throughout their business relationship. And she was a fucking snake to them.
But unfortunately for Chanel, Wertheimer had learned the one true tell of the anti-Semite. And that's, they can just never shut the fuck up about being an anti-Semite.
Yeah, they just never stop fucking talking about it. It's this bizarre thing with fucking anti-Semites and fucking like far-right fringe folks. A big thing in their belief is that they're in the majority. You hear this all the time, the silent majority stuff.
Yeah.
Their belief is everyone else believes me. They're just not saying it out loud. So I'm going to tell it like it is.
Oh, yes.
It all comes together, doesn't it? And what really winds up happening is fucking Chanel's sitting across the table from Marie Claire, who's hiding her goddamn face because fucking Chanel won't stop jabbering on about fucking anti-Semite conspiracy theories.
Exactly.
It's fucking crazy shit. But yeah, so Wertheimer and his brother, with this knowledge in hand, while fleeing France, bought a 50% share in a company that made propellers for German warplanes. The owner of this company was Ariane.
So when Chanel tried to steal her share of Parfum Chanel, the Wertheimers assigned the 70% stake to the owner of that propeller company, which the Germans wouldn't touch because he was Aryan.
He was Aryan. And then the other big thing, by the way, is that these propellers are being sold for German warplanes. Really a sound business move by Wertheimer and his brother. Also, they sent in a fucking spy, the Wertheimers did, Herbert Gregory Thomas, under the pseudonym Don Armando Gouveray. Oh, shit. And there's more name, too. Sotomayor is the last part of his name. It's like 5 parts. But this guy was sent in to extract the formula and needed ingredients for Chanel number 5. And he fucking pulled it off.
100%. So when the Wertheimers returned to France, the Aryan businessman returned all of the shares of Parfum Chanel back to them. No questions asked.
Yep. Chanel's most pathetic and depraved attempt at seizing control of Parfum Chanel had failed miserably.
Yes. And this is where, because if you look up research on some of the dastardly acts that Chanel committed at this point in history, you'll see the term Nazi sympathizer a lot. And this is where she goes from being a Nazi sympathizer to a full-on fucking Nazi.
Yeah. According to our sources, Chanel becomes a secret agent for the Nazis and works under General Walter Schellenberg, who runs Germany's military spy network. She had lots of connections with fancy people who were sympathetic to Nazi beliefs, and the Nazis wanted them to get on board the way Chanel had.
She is literally working for the Nazis as a spy.
Yeah.
She's deployed to Madrid to connect with the Allied forces under the guise of a business deal. So she tours Europe and tries to recruit new agents for the Third Reich.
Yeah, our sources claim she used her connections to obtain secret info for the Nazis and get other people to do tasks for the Nazis that would help World War II Germany. Also, Schellenberg, he's the right-hand man of fucking Himmler. Whatever the fuck his name is, and Himmler fucking devise a plan for her to take a surrender deal to fucking Winston Churchill. They're friends after all. That's how fucking high up she is. She is not a sympathizer. This is not a conservative in a Republican-held fucking state. This is a goddamn Nazi.
Yes. So at this point, the tide of war has turned against Germany, and they know they're going to fucking lose.
Yep.
So Chanel brings a surrender deal to Winston Churchill, and Winston Churchill fucking laughs at her.
You're hot and everything, but are you shitting me right now?
Exactly.
How far do you think this is going to go, man? We're winning. Yeah, and just to really drive home the whole she's a fucking Nazi thing here, she is literally trying to preserve the Nazis. Like, she is defending the existence of the Nazis. That's how much of a fucking Nazi she is here.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When the Allied forces finally enter Paris, she comes out offering free Chanel No. 5 to all the GI troops. Oh, it's a me coming to have some Chanel No. 5. I guess she's fucking Chef Boyardee now.
Yeah, so she comes out after the chips have fallen and she's lost to save face, but all of these actions indicate, without a shadow of a doubt, she is a Nazi employed by Nazis, preserving as much Nazism as she can in the face of utter defeat.
Yep.
So then the war ends, and Chanel dumps Dinklage publicly.
Yes.
Coco was labeled a German collaborator and a spy, and she was briefly arrested for Nazi sympathies. So she's taken in for questioning, but she's never tried for treason by France.
Yeah, many speculate this is our fellow Winston Churchill. By the way, not a lot of hot takes from that guy.
Yeah, not great.
Yeah, in some respects, pretty indistinguishable from the Nazis. It would just so happen. But many speculate he intervened on Chanel's behalf and saved her ass.
Which is further reinforced by how Nazi sympathizers were treated in France after World War II.
Yeah.
You have to realize the English got bombed. The Americans lost troops. The French were occupied.
Yeah.
They lived through hell. And after the war, women who were seen sleeping with a Nazi or giving a Nazi food, in some cases, were literally shot in the fucking street.
There were a handful of them that, they were fucking killed. They were labeled as horizontal collaborators, which is somehow poetic and hilarious at the same time.
Yeah, because they were horizontal getting fucked. That was me just realizing what that means.
No, you're good. You're good. There were a handful that were shot. There were a ton that were fucking branded with swastikas. And huge groups of these women had their heads shaved and were marked with swastikas for fucking sleeping with these people. This was a goddamn revenge campaign.
Yes. And you have to understand, again, this relationship was common knowledge. Yeah. Everybody knew what was going on.
Yeah.
But due to who she was and who she knew, Chanel makes it out alive.
Yep.
But the house of Chanel is in ruins.
Oh, yeah.
So she pieces out to Switzerland for 10 years. She essentially just wants to get away from the French, who are pretty much done with the whole Nazi thing, and she takes Dinklage with her. Also, when Wertheimer returns to Paris and reclaims Parfum Chanel, Chanel continues her fucking attacks and meddling and launches a competitor to Chanel No. 5, which no one has ever heard of.
No one's ever heard of it. I don't know what the fuck that was called.
I didn't know that was a thing until I read that line.
Yep.
Pierre wants to preserve the brand, which means two things. A, he had to get Chanel to shut her Nazi mouth and stop selling perfume, and could not take her to court. So, to stop the carnage, he offered Chanel a settlement. She could receive 2% as opposed to 10% royalties on Chanel No. 5, $400,000 so she could sell her own line of perfume in Switzerland if she wanted.
Yeah. She never did wind up selling any more perfume after that in Switzerland. So She at that point, I think, was aged out.
Yeah.
And by the way, she isn't done with the Nazi shit yet. This is the funny thing about this. It's speculated a lot that this was fucking hush money, just cleaning up the goddamn mess of her fucking beliefs. But Chanel pays for General Schellenberg's medical care and living expenses after he's released from prison in 1951 due to liver disease, or as it's known in 1951, incurable liver disease. Many speculate that she did this as a means of swearing him to secrecy. The dying old Nazi was gearing up to surely self-publish a memoir of his life, and Coco, our Nazi fashionista, is going to be heavily featured. She pays his funeral cost upon his death the following year as well, possibly to persuade the family not to publish the Nazi memoir.
Yeah, but like a lot of other Nazis, Coco was pretty coldly unapologetic for her World War II allegiance. When she was questioned about all the Nazi shit later on, she said the following.
I don't ask my lovers for their passports.
We have done every fucking accent in Europe thus far.
Moving east to west.
She was quoted by a Fashionado saying,
The French got what they deserved, and not all Germans are bad guys.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's kind of unbelievable. It's sort of absurd, too, that, like, the surviving Nazis all sort of felt this way. It was kind of I didn't do anything wrong. Like, the real psychological trauma was bared by the fucking Jewish survivors of this shit.
Yep.
And you hear that again and again. You know, in most of these scenarios, this is a dominator-dominatee relationship. The dominatee is the one that walks away scarred and wounded. The Nazis are dominating, so most of them left largely mentally unharmed.
The axe forgets, but the tree remembers.
There it is. I love that. That's really good.
Yeah, I stole that. But anyway, so for 10 years, Chanel is essentially in hiding.
Yeah.
Because if she comes back to France, she's worried that she really might be killed.
Yeah.
Then in 1954, Chanel is 71. And she starts thinking, hey, maybe the French are over it. The whole Nazi thing. So she goes back to Paris and she wants to get business again. And who does she approach for money and expertise? Did you guess Wertheimer? It's fucking Wertheimer.
She goes back to Wertheimer again. I love the idea, by the way, of her just going back to France like, hey, France, we cool.
But she approaches Wertheimer, and after all of the shit that she did to him, and says, hey, I want some money, and I need your expertise. Mm-hmm. And Wertheimer says yes.
Yeah, he fucking agrees. But here's the thing. There's a catch. In exchange for his help this time, Wertheimer secures the right to the Chanel name for all products. It's his company now.
Because this was the thing that he was lacking before.
Yeah.
All of the sources that say that Chanel was just a shrewd, conniving, cold opportunist, they were really fucking talking about Wertheimer. Like, this bitch literally was the definition of his enemy, and he was like, well, shit, man, you got a couple $, I'll make them with you.
Money's money. Yeah.
Exactly. So Chanel takes Wertheimer's aid and is promptly chased out of France.
Yep.
Seems that they were still a little bitter about the whole, Nazi thing. And she releases this collection, and Europe fucking hates it.
Yep.
I don't know if they hate it or they hate her. However, true to form, the Americans are really quick to be like, oh, Nazism? Whatever. Like, we took your scientists, we'll take some fashion too. So her fashion line makes it to the US and takes off, and Chanel is back in the fashion conversation.
Yeah, looks like Wertheimer bet on the right decrepit Nazi horse here. Really, truly.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, he did. He did not overestimate the character of the Americans. Good for him.
Yep, there you go.
So Chanel will go on. She'll launch the tweed suit, which is an iconic garment. And then with veins full of fucking morphine, which she is still doing, by the way, she will croak at the age of 87. Thank fucking God.
The Wertheimers in 2023 have a net worth of over $30 billion fucking dollars. They looted her Nazi ass in Jordan Belfort. Shout out to a previous episode, sunk her goddamn boat.
He fucking did!
Yep.
I forgot about that he bought Coco Chanel's boat and then did a bunch of Quaaludes. Anyway, listen to that episode. It's really
Check
good.
it out. Jordan Belfort episode. Sell me this pen. You'll love it. All that remains of her today is her brand and the fucking Coco bio they keep on the website. What the fuck, Chanel? Bury her already.
Up with that.
No other brand has that. I can't find shit on the Gucci family on the Gucci website. It's not there.
Oh, man. Yeah. I don't fucking know. But anyway, Chanel is dead. So I think it's time for our crutches check, revisit those questions, and call it a wrap.
All right, so crutches time. The first C for consumer harm. She was a goddamn Nazi, dude. I mean, I didn't find any explicit examples of her product causing any harm, but Jesus fucking Christ, she was a Nazi. Yeah. She gets the C, I think.
Nazism is just fucking enveloping. It just kind of takes the cake for everything.
Yeah. It's going to check a ton of these goddamn boxes. Rich parents, no fucking rich parents. This is a Carnegie thing. This is a her thing. I think she probably had it worse than fucking Carnegie did. Yeah. Just looking at it. I mean, rich parent wise, she was raised by the goddamn Catholic Church. Union suppression, you bet your ass she gets that U.
She fucking gets that U, baby.
Yep. Tax avoidance by a charity. We have no records of Chanel donating a thing.
She kept all that fucking money.
Yeah,
well, she did donate some to Wertheimer, but not willingly.
Yes. Yeah. Wertheimer managed to pry quite a lot out of that lady. Nothing of her own volition. The second C, child labor. We couldn't find anything on child labor.
Nothing specific.
Harassment allegations. I'm sure that she was harassed ceaselessly by the men that she worked with. But as far as we can tell, there were no harassment allegations levered against her.
Yeah, she gets a negative H.
Yep. Egregious behavior after hours. She was a goddamn Nazi.
Goddamn Nazi spy. And a terrible one at that.
A terrible one. She was the shittiest Nazi spy. This is why fascism is a loser ideology, is because of this shit. Their rigid hierarchy thing seems to insinuate that those at the top deserve to be on the top because they are simply better than those beneath them. Chanel was a great idea person, but she was a shitty spy. She was a bad writer. Apparently, she was coached through a ton of her letters by some poet, and really she was a shit-ass writer also. She couldn't pull off fucking Hollywood. She couldn't stand being around Jewish people, which is absurd and probably not great for this whole fucking spy thing. She's good at one thing. Different smarts for different arts. Different people are good at different shit. Slap suits, she paid off a lot of fucking Nazis to keep that shit from breaking while she was alive. Yeah. I think she gets the S. You know, a lot of the letters she didn't get were solely because we could not determine whether or not she got them. There are a lot of maybes here on this list. Yep. The one we know for certain is she did not get that R.
She did not.
Yep.
She did not at all.
That's it. So, verdict time. Money Mike, if you'd like, I can lead with the questions, but...
Sure, go for
it. So, were the motivations behind Chanel's choices a result of her ruthless opportunism or her closely held beliefs?
I want to say both, but I think it's more her beliefs.
Yeah.
You know, she... time and time again, with the exception of the flip-flopping in her funding of political newsletters, she really stuck to her fucking guns to her detriment.
Yeah.
When she got to Hollywood and they were like, we want glitz and glam, and she gave them boring.
Yeah.
I think that she was in the right place and the right time for a lot of this story. And Nazism at World War II just happened to align with all of the shit that she was brought up with.
And her just vile anti-Semitism anyways. I mean, even before the Nazi stuff, it was, I think you're absolutely right. I think that the opportunities that she noticed were a result of her hideous personal beliefs. Hating someone or hating a group of people is an extremely active effort. It's something you have to constantly fucking do. And you can see this from the opportunities that she saw. The opportunities that she took hold of, a lot of them were fucking sinister.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, was she a good opportunist? Fine. But she was more a Nazi than an opportunist.
She was more a Nazi than an opportunist, and I would call her just an okay opportunist.
Yep.
Question 2. Is this story a rebuke of Coco Chanel? Is it a rebuke of the upper classes of Europe at the time, or is it a rebuke of the Catholic Church?
Yes, yes, and yes. Coco Chanel was an anti-Semite.
Yep.
And was she probably an anti-Semite due to her affiliation with the Catholic Church at a young age? Sure. I'm sure that her hatred of the elites kind of tied into this whole anti-Semitic conspiracy thing. But at the end of the day, a person's beliefs are their choice.
Yep.
And Coco Chanel made wrong choices again and again and again. I will never excuse Nazism.
Yep. Past a certain point, people's circumstances can be tragic, but past a certain point, you have to begin looking at collateral damage. Plenty of people go through what she went through and achieve similar success.
Yeah.
And don't behave this way. Don't execute this way, and don't look for these kind of opportunities. Final question. This sort of ties into the previous question. Was Coco Chanel a product of her time? And if she was, can the brand today separate from her behavior?
So, again, we've touched on this. Did her time and her upbringing influence who she was? Sure, it still is not an excuse. Can the brand today separate from her behavior? Sure. They could just remove her bio from the fucking website. Yeah. Just don't talk about who she was. Just leave her out of the conversation. I mean, she didn't own Chanel in her fucking lifetime. Yeah. Her name is owned by the Wertheimers. Yeah. So just leave her out, man.
Chanel. For God's sake, yeah. I don't think Hermes is a person. I think it's just a really pretty word. It might be a person from some point in history, but
who cares?
It's phonetically pleasing. Chanel is a really pretty fucking name. All you need to do is bury the cocoa.
Yep. Admit that the cocoa happened, and then move on.
That's it. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. I think that about wraps it for this episode. Did we get anything wrong? Please email us at profitversepeeps@gmail.com. Send a quick summary of the error and a picture of you, and we will make the correction in the next episode. Thank you for your contribution to our journey. We're not journalists, but we do want to make sure we're telling an incredible story. And then lastly, we'll probably spend a few minutes roasting you while we're at it. We're not going to be like perfect sports about it. But
we're going to be a little salty because I guarantee that we did more work on this than you did. Yeah. Last thing, is there a profiteer that you want us to talk about? Please reach out and let us know. We spend so much time figuring out who we want to go after next. So if you have someone that you really want to hear us do an episode on, please tell us. We'd love to take your suggestions.
Profitversepeeps@gmail.com. Drop us a note.
But anyway, thanks again for listening, guys, and goodbye.
Yep. Toodle.
Toodle.
Ta-ta.